Well, just want to say hello. Today's day two, and I promised that I'd make a video for every day that I would studying cars. So, just wanted to let you know to check out my website. It began with potatoes. It has a whole bunch of cool articles, including Who's Mr. Bacteria that I talked about in my last video. So I've got 21 days until August 19th, which is the date of my MCAT, and I am hecka worried, hecka scared, and I'm hecka nervous. So I just wanted to share with y'all that it's kind of scary. Yeah, so I'm counting down the day with y'all. If you're taking the exam in the fall too, in September, I'm here with you. We're studying. So briefly, I just want to go over my psych section. So you can ignore this. So I got a 510 on the Princeton exam, which is, I guess, like most of you probably like, oh man, that's probably a sucky score, you know. And I think it's not a great score too. That's not what I want. So I just wanted to share with you like my nervousness and anxiety. And yeah, so let's look at a couple of questions, and I want to see what I guess talk about how I would break down this question. So this was a passage. When I look at a psychology passage, what I'm trying to think to myself is, okay, so first thing I look at is how many questions there are, because just like in cars, sometimes this one shows you that there's five possible questions. So sometimes in cars there's like fewer questions, so I try to tend to read a little bit faster. And what a couple of my friends have told me is that on the cars passages, that the actual exam um, passages are longer than what what we see normally in Princeton practice tests and Kaplan practice tests. So we have to get used to being just able to read quickly. So usually when I read, I actually don't enjoy reading or like skipping to the figures, even though I know that the figures are really important. And then I feel like for Princeton exams, a lot of times you can just skip the reading. That's why I try to emphasize doing the reading first. So that way I can get a feel for the time, because on the MCAT, I don't think I'm going to have like the ability to, oh, let's just skip the entire passage and just jump to the questions. Even though psychology sometimes is just like that. I'm not sure if Princeton's just focused on bigger bigger ideas that they don't really need to pull information. It's not like Next Step where they ask experimental passages. Yeah. So I remember I was doing this question, and it says it has been proposed that there have been variations in the OXTR gene in individuals with specific psychological disorder. In particular, researchers cite the OXTR gene's role in a variety of social behavior, including trust, social comprehension, and attachment, as evidence that there may be differences between people with and without this disorder. Researchers likely believe that variation in OXTR gene contributes most to which one of the following disorders: so schizophrenia, obsessive compulsive, ADHD, or autism. Question. So what I've been doing for psychology, um, not recently actually, because I haven't had time to go over my Anki flashcards, is I've just been going through Anki flashcards that I think, I can't remember his name, something Bennett. Anyways, on Anki, there's a dude that got a 132 in psych, and then he posted his flashcards. And I like doing other people's flashcards sometimes because it hits at the stuff that you don't know, because you don't put the information you don't know on the flashcard. You're more inclined to put information that you understand. And if you have a little bit like cognitive dissonance, you might like not accidentally put a term on the on Anki because you don't understand it very well. So you didn't want to break it down. So I enjoy just looking at other people's Anki. So this is what I do every day, or I try to do every day. So like you might think it's excessive to memorize something like Erickson's stages of psychosocial development, but really on the exam I found myself like finishing psychology 20 minutes early, which gives me, you know, that buffer region on the exam. So I'm not scared um, to look back when I'm on the actual exam. Whatever happens, if I take an extra 10 minutes, then I won't be worried because I'm already prepared for the time. Cards, on the other hand, I'm having a lot of trouble with. So, anyways, on this question, I got it down. So, I didn't actually know what the specific DSM definition for autism spectrum disorder was, but I broke it down into schizophrenia. So, when I think of schizophrenia, I was thinking elevated levels of mania and like depression, specifically in bipolar type 2. You have like major depression, where bipolar type 1 is like lower. But basically, you're going like up and down between these two energy levels, whereas OCD is where you have obsessions, which are cognitive driven, that cognitively drive you to do a compulsion, which is like to open and close the door multiple times. So This is just to reiterate that it's important to cross out all the answers when you're reviewing the exam. Um, Especially for things that are just basic recall, you should understand why each answer is wrong. Maybe not for analysis of data, because that takes too long to go back and read the passage. So if you get the question right and then you read the answer and it sounds like you're kind of matching that, like the data analysis is spot on with the question, then I wouldn't go back to that because you have the right mindset. If you get it wrong, then I would consider going back to the passage and rereading. So ADHD, actually in Princeton they didn't have an explanation, or they didn't have a definition for ADHD. But to be fair, I skipped parts of the book, so I'm not sure. But ADHD, I mean, um, ADHD is ADHD. I guess you're hyperactive. It's hard to maintain attention. But I mean, I just saw social behaviors, trust, social comprehension, and attachment, and that's characteristic of autism. So this one wasn't actually a difficult question. So let me pull up one that I had a hard time with that I missed. So notice, just real quick, just notice that I mark all the questions that I feel uncomfortable with, just to signify to myself later that I should come back and look at them. And the questions that I get wrong that I don't mark are the ones that I'm especially careful about, because that means that I didn't know that I missed the material. So when I look back at those questions, I want to be extra careful about just going back over what I was thinking, as well as why I got it wrong when I come back to it. So this one, I was thinking between twin and adoption study, and I remember sitting here for like a good 3 or 4 minutes thinking about whether or not it was twin adoption study, which is usually longer than you want to spend on a question. Essentially, when you're doing practices, don't be discouraged by getting the question wrong, because if you get it wrong, then that just means that you can go back and look it up. So I pulled up the adoption study here. I was reading it earlier. So yeah, so that was pretty much it. Just for your information, twin studies, you're going to want to control for the genes. So you want to study the effect that genes have um, on a particular behavior or phenotype. Whereas adoption study, you're looking at you're controlling the environment that you're putting people with similar genotypes usually into. So if they experience the same phenotype or behavior, then essentially that means that the genes are what's ultimately responsible, because they're placing these people in different environments. Whereas for the twins, or for adoption study, if they have different phenotypic behaviors in different environments, that means that essentially the environment has a bigger role than we thought. And apparently it has something to do with heritability. I'm not quite sure, but I'm still learning. It's 21 days out for my exam. I'm still learning, so I'm hecka nervous. But anyways, yeah, that was my quick check-in with y'all. Yeah, that's all I got to say. So I will see y'all later. Bye.